Welcome to the Tower Talk podcast, a place for honest and open conversations to support you in living your best life from the inside out. Join me on this journey of self-discovery as we explore what it means to reach next level badassery and cut through the BS. So tune in, stay a while, and I promise I'll be right here alongside you as we figure this shit out together.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited that we're here today doing this together.
I'm so honored to be here.
What a treat this is. Ladies and gentlemen, mostly ladies, and my one male listener, Teddy Siratek, we have April Whitney on the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for inviting me.
We've been trying to do this for a while. I feel like she's a busy woman. She's petite, but she is mighty and strong. And I'd love for you to just introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like we've just been working out together more than
That's true. I know.
But
super fun.
Yeah. My name is April. I am the founder of Petite PWR, which is the only online fitness and nutrition kind of destination just for women 5'4" and shorter. It's like our little corner of the internet.
Yeah.
We have fitness and nutrition services and products and a huge community of petite women, and we do limited merch drops and fun things like that. And all of our programming and our approach is about the metabolism of shorter women. So how to optimize your health as a petite to lose fat, build muscle, and just feel powerful in your body.
Yeah. So tell me about you.
And me, that's what I do. I'm from New York, moved to Austin a couple of years ago, and I am a former professional fencer. So I did about 18 years of fencing. I made an Olympic run. I ran for Tokyo, and then I retired halfway through my trials when I started Petite PWR. And some people sometimes know Petite PWR. It used to be called Smalletics, so it's formerly known as Smalletics, now Petite PWR, if you've seen it on the internet. But yeah, so I spent most of my life in the athletics background.
Yeah. I love that about you because I feel like I knew you for like probably a year before. I was like, you're a fencer? And then every time you post like Throwback Thursday photos, I'm like, she's like, you're just so small and like strong. It's so cool. I know nothing about the sport. So tell me a little bit about your background just like with sports and with fencing. And like you said, the Olympics, like just very easily, casually in a sentence. So tell us about that.
Yeah, I feel like I use it lightly because I did not go to the Olympics, but I did run. Like I was in the running, but I did not qualify. So I don't want to, I don't like to be like, I'm an Olympic athlete because I'm not, but I did try.
What does run mean? Isn't that like the trial?
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically you have to spend a few years and rack up points, and that's how you qualify. And I did it for 2 and then I retired. But I used to be a gymnast. Obviously, like given my stature, I feel like that's the obvious thing that like a short, like muscular girl is gonna do. Yeah. I did that for 6 years, and then I quit because I was the only girl. I was only 6 or 7, but I was the only girl at my level who hadn't broken anything yet. And my coach used to taunt me. He'd be like, "You're next." And I was like, "No, I'm not." And I just quit. I was like, "Mom, I'm not doing this." I don't know. It was gymnastics, and also we could talk about this. I think coaching has changed a lot. Like athletics in the 90s is not the soft, it was not a soft, like cute approach back then. Like you could do a lot to kids. That sounds terrible, but just, really intense training and emotional training and basically abuse. I mean, to make the best athletes in the world, that's what you kind of have to go through.
100%.
So that was very intense. And then I was watching Peter Pan. I was 8, and I feel like most normal girls would relate to like Tinkerbell or something, but I was like, Captain Hook, though. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And my mom, I was like, can I do that? Is that a sport? And then she found a club like an hour from our house, and she drove me there, and that was the first time I did it.
Okay. So you were 7 when you told your mom, I don't want to do gymnastics anymore.
Yeah.
And was it because of that coach experience or just because you didn't want to hurt yourself?
I think it was, I just didn't have this passion for it. Okay. I was competitive, but I could tell when I went out and did my routines, I wasn't like in it all the way. It just, I didn't love it enough to risk my health. I was really afraid of heights and like my beam routines. And we were getting up into these levels where I was doing backflips on the beam. And I was like, I was just terrified every time I went to practice, which is interesting because I never had that same fear in fencing. And like I got hurt a ton in fencing. But it just, gymnastics just wasn't my thing.
I just feel like it's a totally different vibe. I mean, I feel like don't know a ton about fencing, but you almost have this shield. Mm-hmm. You're wearing a lot more clothing. yes, you're like competing against one other person, but gymnastics is like all eyes on you all the time in these little outfits. And I'm sure the coaching is a lot different. And so having that intuition and body awareness as a 7-year-old is really huge.
It's really interesting you bring that up because a lot of the things I've worked on in like therapy in my own life, and I know you talk about therapy on your page a lot. I love therapy as well. A lot of my life as a kid, I didn't like being the center of attention. I still don't, but fencing felt safe because I was
Yeah.
behind a mask. I was fully clothed and I could go out. No one could see my face, and I could just, even though I was short, I could be whatever I wanted. I could be like totally fierce. I could be underestimated. It didn't matter because I was going to go out and fight them. And
Yeah.
I didn't have to reveal or like,
You were.
yeah,
Yeah.
which I didn't even think about until I was an adult. But I think there's a lot in there.
What do you feel like when you were in gymnastics and you were at this younger age and you did have the center of attention kind of feel, where did that come from where that you like didn't want that? Like, was there some sort of event or something that happened that made you not want to be that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, how deep do you want to get?
There we are.
Where are
Let's
we?
do
How
it.
deep we're going? I think honestly, I think a lot of your upbringing dictates those early years and the rest of your life.
For sure.
And in my household, my parents are still together, love them to death. My dad and my mom are very different. They met on an airplane and got married in 3 months, like love at first sight. They're still together, but they're like polar opposites. They like very different things. My mom's very expressive. My dad's very quiet, withdrawn, not expressive. And I think at that age, I wasn't sure if emotions were safe yet. Like, I wasn't sure. My mom let me express them. My dad he would let me express them, but he doesn't mirror them because he's very stoic. He's very calm. He's 75 and he has no wrinkles. Like, he doesn't make expressions.
Yeah.
And I think that was that age where I was like, it's just better for me to not be seen. I'm just I have this power and this fighter inside me, but I don't think I found my place yet where it felt safe to like come out and be like, this is me on this, like, in this outfit, to your point, like this cute little outfit, and like dancing around this floor in this routine.
Yeah.
And I also just never resonated with like costumes, makeup. I was just like, I want to fight. Like, I want to like do something much more rough and like tomboyish, I guess. So I think it's definitely like upbringing and emotional things, and then also maybe just a bit of nature too in my personality and whatnot.
For sure. And reminding me, are you an only child or do you have a sister?
I have a sister, older.
She's older. What was your dynamic like? And was she similar or very different than you?
Very different. We're really close. She's probably my best friend in the whole world.
Yeah.
And she went more like the artistic route. She's super creative, super talented. And then I think that just naturally opened up for me to go to the athletic route, although she was really athletic too when she was in high school.
Yeah.
But we how siblings go, they kind of do different things. So that's what I did.
Did she get more of that like wanting to be center of attention role that you strayed away from?
No, I think actually I ended up it ended up being on me because of fencing. Even though she also had like her huge moments, I think for a while the fencing became very much so. I mean, if you're going to Olympic, it's a family affair.
Yeah.
Like, we worked with sports psychologists who would come in and be like, "Are you sure you want this for your family?" And we all got together and we were like, "Are we doing this?"
Wow,
like,
okay.
It's financial investments, it's time, it's a lot. It's a sacrifice for my sister and my parents. So that took a lot of attention away from her. And as a result, I think, I ended up like inadvertently almost taking some of that attention, even though it wasn't natural for me.
You said that like most of your life you've kind of like strayed away from the spotlight and didn't want that attention. Do you feel in your now 30s that you feel more comfortable and open to like be yourself and be the center of attention?
Yeah, for sure. Although I still feel like what I do it because I believe in my mission for the company, which is I want to make and help every petite woman feel powerful in her body. So I'm willing to go through almost anything to do that. And I think back when I started Instagram, do you remember like the cringe phase of like posting your first few posts and it gets no likes and like you're just showing up online? That helped me a lot with just getting over like, I no longer care what people think. Having to put like our body on the internet for not in a, just because fitness is like
Yeah.
you're showing muscles, you're wearing tighter clothes at the gym. So I think creating content helped me become more comfortable. I mean, for the first time, you're seeing pictures of yourself and videos and YouTube and different angles. And that just completely got me over any like hesitation or insecurities. It just crushed it because I'm like, whatever, it's out there now. Like everyone sees it. And then of course the inner work, like therapy, working on yourself, learning about myself through my clients, through my my team and my business, and even through fitness and whatnot. So it's been a journey, but I'm definitely still on that journey too.
It's funny you say the because are you talking about like early Instagram, like 10 years ago Instagram?
I'm talking early day.
It's funny you say that in the sense that it helped you grow to be this like feel more confident in yourself, whereas the polar opposite of somebody can say, we get on social media, I say this because I'm obviously an influencer content creator myself as well, to be selfish, that we're so vain. We like to look at ourselves, but I completely agree with you. I was the same. I was like, I'm getting on Instagram to help people move again, to help people feel better and more healthy in their body. Sure, I'm posting pictures of myself, but like, what else am I supposed to post? It was the cringy filtered, like, smoothie bowls, but also, we're out there like putting ourselves out there. And I think a lot of times some of that like backlash that we get is just people that maybe aren't at the phase that we're at.
Yeah, and can I also just say that's before we even met, because we met on Instagram before real life. That's what attracted me to you. I was like, you're so authentic. You're such an individual, and you're so yourself. And that's really actually rare to find on social media. I think it's hard, but I immediately picked that up from you. I was like, this girl is just here to help. She's here to serve and like create that space for people to just be themselves. And I think that's like that's the fastest thing I can get from your page, is just like authenticity. And I was like, I love this chick. This is awesome.
I appreciate that so much. Thank you. Because it's come a long way. I mean, honestly, I think my first post was 2013. It's now, we're in the year 2024. God. Like, that's wild.
Yeah.
It's so wild that it's
wild.
been that long. But I just want to shift back again to the fencing, because, I would love to, like, you were in fencing. Like, how did you, I want to just hear, like, how you got to the level that you were at.
Yeah.
And even the psychology, person coming in, like, that was such a cool thing that you kind of went over as well. So just tell me a little bit about like you getting into fencing and then where that led you.
I have some interesting things that I also haven't even shared with you yet, because I just got back from this energetics retreat in Morocco, and I actually had a huge breakthrough on one of the biggest blocks I had in performance in fencing. I had a breakthrough literally, almost 6-7 years later. I'm still having breakthroughs even though I'm not fencing anymore for the same things, because how you do one thing is how you do everything. So the stuff that was happening in fencing that kept me from going to the Olympics, honestly, it'll show up for the rest of your life. But I'll get there in a second. Just going back, the first time I ever held the weapon, it felt like I had done it in a past life. Like it felt like natural, like it was just like, it just came to me. It felt like I'd done it before. And I went to my first national, and I was basically noticed by this club in New York City, the coaches there, and they approached my parents because I was young. And they were like, can you bring her to New York? I was in Connecticut, and we want to train her. We think she has potential. And my parents were like, whoa, like, okay. So that began the official, like, very intense journey of working with, the national team coach, like the best coaches, the best athletes today, they all went to the Olympics, like this group of people pretty much. And it kind of started there and took over and dictated most of my life all the way through college, and even after college when I made the Olympic run. So it's completely shaped who I am in every way. And then also I worked with psychologists and sports performance specialists from like age 13 through 26, 27. So, I mean, I could go down the rabbit hole in about any direction you want to go. And I think what's crazy about athletics is it's so much more than sports, as you know, like as an athlete yourself. There's so much that is happening in your brain when it's you versus you, and you learn everything about yourself, like
Yeah.
all your limits, like, and you're pushing them. And I think it's cool because it does translate into fitness, and like what you teach your clients in the gym is just like, what are our limits? How far can I go? What am I capable of? And it shares a lot there. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we could go down any direction with
It's
this.
crazy that like even when you're talking about it, I wasn't never at the level that you were at, but I ran track in high school and college, and I like feel in my body some like emotions come up because it's like so intense. And I ran track for, God, not nearly as long, of course. It was like maybe 7-8 years or so. But it's like every day, every weekend we race. You know, you're in your, especially at this sport where like it's really you against you. Yeah, you have like an opponent against you. And yes, I'm running against the other 7 people in the lane, but like it is so much more mental than we think. And it really can fuck you up, for lack of a better term, you know?
Yes.
And so the fact that you even like worked with all these psychologists and like were able to understand that about yourself is like so cool. So when you got to this level of like, you know, basically almost going to the Olympics, like how old were you and what were you kind of going through at that point in your life?
So I fenced in college, and I went to Cornell. I fenced Div 1 there, and I thought I would retire after college. I was like, I just wanted to go to this school, and I'm happy now. And I went into pharmaceutical copywriting and really didn't like my life. Like I was just not happy in the corporate world. I was in Manhattan. Just didn't feel right. It didn't feel aligned. And so I went out of retirement and back into fencing because I thought, well, that's the one thing that's brought me joy, where I felt flow and I felt like had a place there. So I started training again and competing again, but I had to self-fund most of it from that point. So all my money from my corporate job was just like basically going into coaching, and then I would go to a World Cup probably once or twice a month. So I would leave work on a Friday, come back on Sunday, like go off to like Germany and then come back in 2 days. I would train in the mornings at 5 before work, and I'd train after work from like 5 p.m. to 11 p.m., either at like Columbia University with those up and coming athletes or like Fencers Club in Manhattan. So I was at a time in my life where I was like looking for happiness again and purpose, and I wasn't sure where to find it. And so I went back to the one thing I knew. And I didn't really necessarily find it in fencing either, but I gave it a good solid another 5 years of torturing myself.
I didn't realize it was another 5 years.
Yeah, just about five years.
So this is now, you're 22, you graduated. How long did you take off before you went back and tried to like find that happiness again?
Yeah, only maybe. So I graduated in like, I want to say April, and I went back in September.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like
so it was like
off.
literally that year, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. And then 5 years. So 27 was when you stopped.
26. So maybe it was like 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah. Or 25 in that 25, 26 year. Yeah.
And then at what point were you like, I got to give this up?
Yeah. Actually, it's interesting because when you think of athletes retiring or quitting, you think it's like they just do it in a day. But after watching so many go through it, it's like years of like dragging it out because it's an identity loss. It's like, do I really want this? Can my body handle another year? You're weighing all these things. What else do I want to pursue? So I started having these thoughts because that Tokyo was going to be a tough year for me to qualify because my friend Lee Kiefer, she's the first American man or woman to win gold medal in the sport of fencing in the history of America, United States.
Wow.
Absolute rock star.
Yeah.
She was definitely going to go, not me. And everyone knew it. It was like she was I mean, she's an incredible athlete, totally like 1 in a million in the sport. So maybe even fewer. So that year it was like, I'm at the point where I'm the only athlete left in my birth year who hasn't had a hip replacement. So I'm weighing that because I'm like 2 more years. I'm going to have to get a hip replacement at 25. Do I want that?
Yeah.
I'm definitely not going to catch up to Lee Kiefer because she's got all the points because she's incredible. And I would just be doing it to do it almost, like spending the money. And it's just such high stakes. I was weighing that, but I kept doing it anyways. And then I started Petite PWR or Smallletics back then, and it like took off, which I didn't expect at all. I just started talking about health and fitness as a short woman and the struggles and weight loss and strength training. and started building a community. And when I realized there was something there, I got really fired up about it. And it started to become more important to me than fencing. And that's when I was like, okay, I think I'm ready to step down as an athlete. And I still stayed in fencing. I like taught kids fencing, and I did some stuff to just stay in that world. But it was like a year of slowly phasing out.
It's funny you say that, because now that I think about it, I guess it's like, I think of, football players. They're like, oh, I'm going to retire. And then they come out of retirement. I'm like, you're a 40-year-old playing football, getting a concussion every other. What do you do? Like, you get to this point where when that's all you know and that's all you think, putting that in quotes, like brings you happiness, you're going to keep showing up, because it's like, that's what it is, right?
Yeah. And nothing, still to this day, nothing emulates the feeling of like being in the flow where like time stops, you score the most beautiful, perfect touch, and you aren't even thinking about it. It's poetic, it's magical. Nothing touches it. I mean, even to this day. Maybe there's a few things, but
what is that you can think of right now?
This sounds superficial, but I'd say sales compare. Like when you when you like do something in your business or like something, but it's instantaneous, like a touch is, it happens in a moment. I'd say like growing a sales team or those types of things are super rewarding because they're competitive, they're fun. That gets close, but nothing, or pitching things, like pitching ideas.
Cool.
Yeah, but nothing gets close to the actual fencing point itself.
Probably. Do you feel like you're a better, let me rephrase this. Do you feel like fencing made you a better business owner?
Hey talkers, are you ready for a boost with your fitness journey? Use code TerraTalk to save 20% off your first order of Legion, aka your new best friend for high quality supplements. Now, why is Legion the best? Because whether you're aiming to feel stronger, more energized, or just a little more badass every day, Legion's got you. Their products nourish your body and enhance your performance without any unnecessary fillers or fluff, and it's backed by real deal scientific research. Plus, they taste so good, you'll actually look forward to chugging down your protein shake. I know I do. And they offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. What's not to love about that? So, what are you waiting for? Embrace the journey to becoming the best version of yourself with Legion Athletics by your side. Head over to their website now and use code TerraTalk for 20% off your first order and double loyalty cashback on every order after. Your support through Legion helps keep the podcast as a free source of content, so your support really does matter. So head on over to Legion and enjoy the rest of the show.
I think athletics did because of I guess what I learned about myself through fencing of many things was that I might not be the best, the most talented. I might not be the tallest, definitely not going to be the tallest or the strongest or the fastest. But I will outwork anyone. I will be the last one standing. I will fight. I will be a complete pit bull. I'll do what I got to do. And I think that mindset pretty much transfers into everything. Building a business takes like 10 years. Honestly, it takes a lot of time. It's not going to happen overnight. So I think I learned the long-term vision, and I feel very calm about doing something for long periods of time without a big payoff. I need like little checkpoints, like touch points of like, this is working. But to get to like the ultimate vision, I'm fine staying in it for as long as it takes. And I think fencing taught me that, because it was like 18 years of that.
How long does an actual, I mean, again, forgive my ignorance, but how long does a match actually last?
It depends. So they call them bouts, and a bout, it usually goes to 5 touches. If it's a pool bout, so it's early in the day, you just go to 5 touches. That's 3 minutes, but they stop and go. So it could be like 10 minutes long all in all. But a DE or a direct elimination, you go to 15. And you have 1 minute breaks every 3 minutes. So that can go as long as 45 minutes because there's coaching, there's things that happen with equipment, there's stopping and going. So yeah, probably the longest it'd go is one bout is 15 minutes, and you're doing multiple.
Constant.
Yeah.
And so you can kind of relate that to some business stuff where it's like, I used to be a sprinter. So it was like 12 seconds, 11 seconds, quick things. And so sometimes I think about that now as like a business owner, and I was like, well, why isn't this happening right now? So I need some of your endurance,
Yeah.
right, with some of my business stuff. So
Yeah.
that's really cool. As far as your business goes, you know, you were talking about how you were just kind of, you got into it because some things worked for you. Like I know a little bit about your background and how you kind of switched what you were doing to get the body that you wanted. So
Mhm.
how did you actually like go about actually creating business off of that?
Yeah, it was super cool because I had done some strength training, but mostly everything I did was cardio and fencing, tons of cardio. And I started strength training randomly in my final year. And that's when I had this really big transformation and just like my body composition. And I was still working in pharmaceuticals with a bunch of doctors. And
Yeah.
so I just started thinking, has my height, does this matter? And I went to them and I would have these long lunches with them and they would tell me, oh, yeah, metabolism is slower for shorter people. Like height is one of the factors that plays into metabolism. Is it the end all be all? Of course not. But
Yeah.
if you're smaller, you have less lean body mass, your caloric intake is different, it's lower.
Yeah.
It's harder to create a calorie deficit when you have less calories in a day to eat. You have to be more strategic about the types of foods you choose and how you set up your meal timing and when you work out and how much cardio you do so that you keep your appetite in a good place. And I realized,
Yeah.
whoa, I didn't know any of this. I was
Yeah.
just trying to diet like my tall friends who just like restrict and that's fine for them.
Yeah.
And so I started the Instagram and then I did a Kickstarter in 2018 or 2017. And it was it was eye-opening because I wrote a book called Nutrition for Petites.
Okay.
And it sold over $8,500 worth of ebook copies, which like it was a $60 book.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, like there's a whole bunch
You
of
do this.
short women
Yeah.
doing this. And then James Karras, not Jim Karras, he wrote the New York Times bestselling book called The Petite Diet Advantage. And it was a huge book. It did really well. And I actually, he's on our board of advisors now today. It took a few years until I could get on his radar, but he's amazing. And he, just talking with experts and our audience and growing the community, I realized like there's science here. There's also the emotional side of it, of just like feeling left out of society, not having these same like beauty standards, being underestimated, getting paid less because you're not as like dominant of a physical presence in a room. Like it just kind of all these things started to show up as conversations with our community. And I started building that program based off of my own results, but then also my certifications, all the dietitians I started working with, the doctors, and kind of created our method from that.
Yeah. And I think like ultimately, like there's so many fitness people out there and we're all really preaching the same kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Lift heavy shit, eat well,
Yeah.
increase your steps, drink some more water, get some sleep, right? But having a community of people that are like-minded, like you, like me, like is so valuable.
Yes.
Because exactly what you said, like people feel left out. And sometimes even having like a little group of people, even if it's online, is so rich. It makes your experience so much better.
It's the difference between you achieving a result and not.
Yeah,
most of the
I
time.
totally agree.
It's the
Right.
accountability and the support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you stopped, fencing, you talked a little bit about this loss of identity, and I kind of hear it in some of the things that you're talking about. But what does that feel like now? Like it's been 5 or 6 years or so since like you've completely put up the towel or whatever. How does it feel now?
Yeah, I think I transferred all my ambition and passion into the business, and that's what I spend all my time on now.
Yeah.
But I think one difference I noticed about myself when I was fencing was I fit in, but I also, most of those athletes that went on to the Olympics, they really only ever had one interest, and it was fencing. And I always had a lot of interests. Like I'm more of a generalist. I love to write. There were so many things I remember wanting to do in my life. That's why I retired the first time. I was like, oh, I'm not singular minded enough to do this. I wanted to go into sciences. I wanted to do stuff. And so I think I also realized my identity wasn't 100% fencing. I always had other parts of myself that fencing didn't capture and wasn't an outlet for.
Yeah.
So that helped make the transition a little bit easier. I was like, I have more life to live. I have other things and frontiers and stuff I want to try. And it was just one chapter. But yeah, some people, especially the best athletes, they really only, that's what they were put on earth to do. It's like this one thing, they're the best at it. And I think I was just lucky to have some other interests.
Yeah, especially because you did it for 18 years. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's a whole ass lifetime
Yeah.
that you spent doing this thing. And I don't know exactly what your schedule was, but I'm sure you were doing at least once a day, sometimes twice a day.
Oh, yeah.
You'd compete on the weekends. Like that is a huge part of your life.
Yeah.
And for me personally, like even when I was in track, again, not at the level that you were at, but like I called myself an athlete first and then a student.
Yeah.
I didn't love school.
Yeah.
And so I had this like one thing that I was really, really good at. So I'd kind of like lean into that. Did you feel like that too?
I actually really love school.
Okay.
I was a nerd, so I liked academics. I thought at one point I might even like go into academia.
Okay.
But I would say like the weird thing is now this sounds like conceited. I don't mean it in this way, but it's probably why we also really on the athlete level, like when you meet another athlete who was an athlete and they're like several years ago, you're just like, oh yeah, I get it.
Yeah, yeah.
But like other people don't get that, like you were a savage at one point,
Oh,
you know, like and that yeah, that feeling of like, oh man, and the pain. Honestly, it's just meeting someone who knows that level of pain on every physical, emotional, spiritual level. Like the pain that fencing was in my life, like it wasn't fun at all. It was mostly work.
Yeah.
So and frustration and like why can't I do this, and just so it's like. It's just like maybe the hard part is just unless I'm, it's harder to connect with people on those parts of me that are just so niche. And so I just don't talk about it as much. It just doesn't crop up as much in conversation, I guess.
But I'm sure there's a lot of people, especially that listen to this podcast, that have been past athletes. Again, not at the level you were at, or maybe not at mine. And so what kind of pieces of advice could we both give someone that had this like loss of identity of maybe they were a runner and they can't run anymore. Maybe they used to do, I don't know, play basketball in high school or something and they don't do it anymore. Like what kind of stuff could we give them now?
I think what I said earlier about how you do one thing is how you do everything. When you zoom out of what you were good at in your sport or whatever talent you had, you can usually use that mindset and apply it to other areas of your life and be super successful, just kind of taking from that. So I don't think it ever dies within us. We can always transfer those learnings over and have that, like keep that growth mindset in. I'd say like that's one thing to consider. I'm curious how you would answer that.
Yeah, I still consider myself an athlete.
Yeah.
I don't, run track. I don't compete anymore at all, but I consider a lot of my clients athletes because like what they're working towards a specific goal, whatever that may be, their first pull up, push up, whatever. And so I think bringing some of that athletic competitiveness into your own training gets you a lot further too. And it makes it more fun again.
Definitely.
And so, and also with that being said, as we talked about earlier, having a team, having someone with you, a community, a gym that we both go to, like that's a way to like push yourself and get that camaraderie that you used to get when you were on a team. I think that's huge as well. It brings you that, I told this story, I've told this story a bunch of times, but when I ran track and then I had this like loss of identity when I left, it wasn't for a couple years until I went to this boot camp in the park and I was like, I don't want to go. That's stupid. That's stupid. And I finally showed up and it was like, oh my God, this is what it is. This is what it feels like again. There's a team, there's high fives, they support you, there's excitement, but also there's like competitive like piece of it too. So I think really like the community aspect is huge. And then also just like, if you're not with someone in person, like finding that competitiveness within yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. Nothing like a little competitiveness to like get your motivation going.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So you talked about some breakthroughs that you've had recently. I'd love to hear about them. And I want to like get into the mental breakthroughs that you have had within your business, but also just within maybe even just your own fitness journey, because I know you've worked through some injuries and stuff too.
Yeah. So this breakthrough I had, this I think will be, it's not really related to business, but it impacted every area of my life.
Yeah.
I haven't shared this yet with like really anyone, so it'll be fun.
So exciting.
So when I was fencing, I reached this mental block for years, and every coach had a different way of telling me, but it was basically like the way Bucky Leach used to say it. He's passed now, but he would say, if you just put it all on the table, April, like you go out there and you're holding on to something, like you're holding back like a 0.01%, but that's keeping you from reaching your ultimate goal. That's keeping you from being like fully 100% April out there doing it the way April does it and winning.
Yeah.
And I felt it. I was like, I am holding back. I couldn't unleash it. And there were moments in practice where I could, but like when it mattered in competition, everyone looking at me, the pressure, the stage, like it just wouldn't come out to the same extent.
Okay.
I spent years in therapy going through this, even just like biofeedback, like tons of psychological training, physical training, whatever. And I just never solved it. And I mean, I wouldn't say you ever solve these things, but recently when I was on this energetics retreat, which I didn't even know what energetics are, but it's just manipulating energy through like breath work or meditation or visualization or whatever it may be, dance, shaking, like tons of stuff. We were doing this exercise where you do energetic shaking. So you like, it's just to get your nervous system like to get out of your body and head, and you shake for a long time and then you dance creatively. So the shaking is not meant to be dance. It's meant to be just like you're getting out energy.
Yeah.
And during the dance portion, you know, you're fully just supposed to be expressing yourself. One of the facilitators said, I want you to I want you to do movements you've never done with your body. Like, which as athletes, I feel like I've done it all. I'm like, I've done every possible movement there is, but that's not true. Like, if you're totally uninhibited, if you put everything on the table and you're free to do whatever, you're gonna come up with new movements. And the breakthrough that I had was that you can push really hard at something in your life. Like, try so hard you couldn't possibly do it harder. Like, you could even dance as hard as you possibly could, but if you're dancing really hard, there's going to be a point, right, where you can't make new moves. You're just dancing really hard. But to make to create something new, to express yourself in a way you never have before, to reach your entire new potential, you have to be relaxed enough and safe enough to tap into your unique self and go the rest of the way. Like, so if going as hard as possible brings you 80%, the next 20% is not going hard as possible. It's going within and finding what's unique to you to express yourself. And I thought about this in relation to some of like the best athletes in the world. There are moves in every sport that were not created until like a final point or on the Olympic stage, like in fencing, for example. This guy, Miles Chamberlain Watson, I grew up with him. He invented the touch behind the head. So he, on a world stage, never done before in the history of fencing, whipped out this touch behind the head. Also, he did under leg. And at first people were like, was that legal? Like, no one's ever seen it.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, it is. Like, he invented it. And now every male fencer does it. It's a normal thing. It's happened in basketball. It's happened in every sport. It's like they've already gone, they have the best, they're the best of the best. They have every skill. They've honed it in. And to go that extra, you know, maybe it's 20%, maybe it's 1%, it has to be unique to you. Like, only you are going to bring out this level of creativity to create an entirely new idea or movement or expression that no one else has done in history, and put it all on the table. And that was the breakthrough I had. Was 80% is working hard and pushing, but like, you want to be 100% authentically you actually have to relax. You have to let go. You have to go inward and think about how to express yourself like uninhibited. I don't know if any of this is making sense because I've never told this story, but sure. I'm like obsessed now with what is unique to everyone that is going to help them get past the point of like, you've done everything you can, you've worked so hard, but what's that next thing of relaxing into it so that you can just do something that no one's ever done before.
So what was the move that you did?
God, I don't know. I was wearing a blindfold, but it felt different.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
it was like a whole experience.
Yeah, it was. It just felt, it was a whole type of feeling of putting it on the table that I'd never felt. And I was in that flow state and I was like, man, that's what my coach meant by putting it all on the table. It wasn't work harder. It wasn't push harder. I couldn't possibly work harder than I was.
Yeah.
It is actually doing the opposite of that. It's like relax and have fun and play and access these like deeper parts of your brain that you can't get to by just knocking doors down. You have to almost be a little kid again and like play with them and
Yeah.
When you can bring a level of play to the highest pressure moments of your life, and that's not going to be the Olympic stage for everyone. That could be different things.
Right.
You can do stuff you've never thought you were able to do before. And I think it can happen in a simple workout too.
What a cool lesson.
Yeah, right?
I love that.
Did that make sense? I
Yes.
feel like that did.
Yeah, let
make
me like
sense.
break it down for an
Yeah.
example for like I want to say like a normal person going to the gym for a workout or something. You can work as hard as you can. You can get the workouts in. You can get 8 hours of sleep. You can drink the water. You can get your steps in. Everything can be perfect, and you don't see anything changing on the scale, or you don't think you're progressing. And then maybe you can just relax, or you can take the rest day, or you can take a weekend off and get back in it. And you're like, oh, I actually do see progress. Things are working. I just needed to relax and let like the universe or let my body kind of take shape in the way it should. It's like you can do all the things, just like you said, push, 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 push. But it's like you can't push further than the wall in front of you. You kind of just have to relax into it as well, too. Yeah.
And even more than that, like what if it was actually fun to reach your goal and not this like huge pressure where it's like you against yourself?
Yeah.
It's like, what if you actually had fun doing it?
What in the last couple of weeks, because I know you just went on that retreat recently, have you noticed shift?
A lot.
Yeah.
I feel like I've just created this again, it's like my mind feels very expanded now because I feel like I've accessed and learned how to access parts of my brain that were not accessible to me when I was younger for whatever reason. And so now I feel like it's an intuitive thing, but I feel like if I am stuck in a really tough business decision or any type of decision, I can get quiet and connect to that sort of source energy or just that sense of self and get clarity. Like there's just more intuitive leadership within me that can roam free and I can trust her. It's maybe like a self-trust thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like buttoned down and like pushing so hard. It can be like really easy to do things. I don't have to work really hard for tens of decades of years for things to get a result. I could have it tomorrow if I have the right mindset. So I think it's been showing up in everything. It's like I don't have to wait. I don't have to earn stuff in terms of like you don't have to like kill yourself to achieve goals, which that's my whole family is really hardworking. So I was taught you have to suffer to get something, but you don't have to suffer to get things. You can actually be in alignment with your goals and it can be enjoyable and fun and you can reach them on your own timeline that you decide. You don't have to have certain things that have to be a certain way. So I think it's just more freedom of thought and that's allowed me to take way more risks just in being myself, being more free in how I've managed my team and how I've, reached out for certain opportunities or showed up in certain opportunities. So, I mean, there's not really an area in my life it's not affecting right now. And it's like fresh right now. So.
Yeah. When did you know that you needed something like that in your life?
Oh, the retreat?
Yeah.
I didn't at all. Actually, I was invited by a friend. I didn't even look at the itinerary. I had no idea what energetics was.
Wow.
I'm like that though. She was like, come to Africa. And I was like, all right. So I just went.
Yeah.
And it was the first, I would say, kind of deep dive into deeper work that I was doing from a place where there's no fresh wounds in my life right now. I'm in a good place. So it was very interesting to do deeper inner work from a healthy, happy place, not from a wounded place, which is typically when we do the work on ourselves is like when we're hurting. So I think maybe that gave me that extra leverage that I didn't really go in looking for anything, but it was there and it found me, I guess.
I'm just happy to know that I have a friend that is just going to say yes to a trip to Africa.
Oh,
because I definitely need more friends like that in my life. I'm like,
oh yeah,
that's really great.
Yeah,
no.
I'm very spontaneous with my travels.
Are you a big traveler? You like to travel?
I love traveling. Yeah, I know you do too.
It's a huge aspect of my life, and it's like it's another thing for me because of the mindset, the culture, the like expansion, the abundance feel, and that shows up a lot in my work and in like what I do in the gym too.
Definitely, it's always really cool to see how you can show your audience that you can travel, you can go off your routine, and it's fine.
Yeah, it is fine.
It's fine.
So tell us a little bit more. I mean, I know we've been talking about your program this whole time, but just tell us What is Petite Power? Who is it for? And what can people get from you?
Petite Power, we have an online, it basically replaces your gym membership, but it's like a health club just for petites. And whether you're looking to just meet other like-minded petites, talk about fashion, whatever, or you're trying to lose weight and really get a transformation, this club has like daily workouts. It has a calorie calculator just for short women. We have experts moderating it. It has a calendar with live events every day. It's super fun. So we have that gym membership online. And then we also have a 3-month, like more intensive program where we teach you everything about your body as a petite. You get to be paired with one of our petite experts and get a lot of one-on-one support through the journey, like custom and tailored. So it's all at petitepower.com.
Cool.
And my mission and vision is to just, be the go-to community for petites all over the world. And we're going to be expanding into many other categories in the next couple of years beyond just health. So
Yeah.
I just want it to be a place where petite women are like, yeah, this is where I go for trusted information and support and my peeps.
What are these other categories? Are we allowed to talk
Yeah.
these other things?
Yeah. We're working on some petite specific supplements because, when it comes to like electrolytes and protein, its dosages are not the same for everybody. So also petite women are more predisposed to osteoporosis. Like there's a lot of unique health angles with petite. So we're looking at developing some really cool products. We also have some merch that may be dropping, not soon, but we're working on more physical products.
Cool.
And I think, honestly, at the core of Petite Power, all these women are short, yes, but they're also all really interested in self-development. So we're getting more into this sort of self-development space as well through a bunch of things. Just bringing in more of our, more experts and leadership on mindset, basically.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love that. What are you most excited about? I mean, all those things.
Yeah, all the things. I'm most excited, honestly, that this is not really external facing, but my team is so united in this mission. And I just know that we're on this track to make a massive impact. We already have impacted hundreds of thousands of petites, but I just feel it in my core. This is going to be, we're all aligned. I finally feel like after 7 years of building this, we have these, 14, 15 people that are like, let's bring petite to the masses. Let's do this. And I'm really excited about the momentum we have right now.
Are all your people petites that work for you?
Almost, except for the men.
Yeah.
There's a few men that are not petite, but they're great cheerleaders.
They're great.
Yeah.
We got to have a good supportive man by our side.
Yeah,
Like we got to have a Teddy.
Yeah.
We got to have
we got to have him. Yeah.
I ask this question to everyone that comes on. It's different for you because you've been in fitness for athletics really for so long. So pick a time. Just pick a time frame. What is one thing you wish you knew before you started your fitness journey?
Pick a time frame?
Yeah, like, you've been in this for so long. So
Yeah.
maybe like before you started strength training.
Oh, okay, before I started. Oh my God, there's so many things. Okay, I know what it is. I wish I knew it was okay to do things that feel good for you, even though it's not what everybody else is doing. I used to think if I go out to dinner, I need to finish my meal, or I need to eat when other people are eating on vacation, or if they're by the pool all day, I have to be by the pool all day. But if you're a sheep, you won't ever grow. You got to be different. You got to be yourself. So I think I wish I knew it was okay to have goals and to literally do things very differently than other people, eat different foods if that's what makes you feel good, do different workouts than your friends are doing, because strength training was not cool when, it wasn't cool. But yeah, I think it's I wish I just gave myself permission to do the stuff I intuitively knew would make me feel better, but I was just not confident enough to go do.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And when you first started your fitness journey, you don't feel like you were there.
No.
But now you are.
Yeah,
Love
for
that.
sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to leave the audience or leave them with or tell anyone?
I mean, whether you're petite or not, I know we talked about that a lot. I think the core thing is just about feeling powerful in your body, and you can do that in any way, shape, or form. You can do it through strength training or dance or however you express yourself. So I guess I would say any woman or Teddy listening to this,
Hopefully,
to just find that thing that makes you feel powerful, because I think there's nothing greater than that feeling.
Nothing greater than that feeling with a good friend or a good support system or community or something as well, because sharing that too with other people is incredible.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. This was wonderful. I just love you so much.
Love you.
Woman Crush Wednesday.
Yes,
always. This girl right here. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming to this Tara Talk. I hope you're taking something away from this episode, and if so, I would love to hear about it. You can connect with me at The Tara Talk and at Tara LaFerrara on Instagram. A few ways you can help support the show and help spread the word. You can share it on Instagram, tag at The Tara Talk and at Tara LaFerrara. Send an episode to a friend, and please leave a review if the show is resonating with you. It takes just a few minutes, and it means so much to help this show grow, and it helps me to continue to bring on badass guests for all of us to learn and grow from. I am so happy you're here and excited to be on this journey with you. Until next time, be a badass with a good ass.